Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode on the HydroSMP. Now, recently I had a few early game players swing by my base to take a look at it, and that's when I realized we might have a problem. Not everybody has access to an elytra early game, and my base is basically inside a big cliff face. Well, especially around my starter base area, which is where my nether portal comes out. So if I wanted to walk up to the wood or moss farm, it's a pretty challenging thing to do. So if you're flying, it's great, but if you're not flying, it is basically parkouring up a giant cliff face just to get to a farm. So that's when it hit me. We need to make this place way more accessible, and we need to do it pronto. And the best way to do this is to bring the mountainside out and basically making it into a much more gradual slope. We're going to be able to do this by smoothing out the terrain, adding a path up the mountain, and then connecting into where the wood and moss farm is. This will give us plenty of room to do any extra detail work, like adding in some grass, some flowers, or some custom trees into this area, making it much more accessible for players or even us who want to just be able to walk around our base and just take in the area. We're going to finish everything off by adding in those plants, and then I also want to do a little bit of a cave entrance style into where our tunnel is, connecting it to where our redstone area is, and it will just bring this area together, making it feel a lot more complete, and also adding in that path, which is a much needed thing. So now that that's all said, let's go ahead and jump into our first time lapse of today's video. And just like that, the time lapse is done and the new terrain has been added, and it's already looking a whole lot different than it did at the beginning of this video. Let's do a quick walkthrough of this new terrain and kind of take a look at how it is looking and feeling since the beginning of this video. We start off with the custom cave entrance here, kind of adding that entrance bit to where our tunnel was. I kind of wanted to go for more of that natural rocky cave entrance while keeping it functional and looks like it's supposed to be there. You can see our path now goes all the way up the mountain. We went ahead and used the same color palette as the rest of our path and surrounded it with some of that moss and green concrete, kind of like that mountain that we did a few episodes ago beneath our castle. And this leads up here to a newly flattened out and larger area at the top here. This makes the wood and moss farm area so much more accessible, and it gives us plenty of more potential for new trees or other custom landscape bits that I have been wanting to add for a while up here, but just didn't have the space to do it. You notice that the path now naturally guides you up the hill, branching from the original path, and it makes it so much more accessible, and it makes the area feel way more alive and functional. We added so much more grass and detail work to help everything blend back together in the surrounding landscape, and we finished it off with that custom tunnel entrance, which I am just loving in this area. Overall, this area is way more accessible, and honestly, it just feels better to move through now. But with that all wrapped up, it's time to switch gears. Not too far from here, our teammate Brolas has been hard at work building a brand new Guardian farm, and today we're taking on the big task designing a storage system and interior for it. No, I am not very much a redstone person, but I figured we did the moss farm storage and it turned out great, so how hard could a Prismarine Guardian storage system be? So let's go ahead and head over there and get started. As we approach the Guardian farm here, you can kind of see what we have to work with, and it's currently just a concrete platform, so we have a little bit to work off. But you can see there isn't really a storage system here, just two item frames for the farm equipment. We went ahead and brought some more like sea themed colors for this build, and we'll kind of see as we go what we kind of want to do for this. I went ahead and grabbed some of the warped wood and some prismarine to kind of do that blue colored, and I also brought some of that spruce wood. You can see we have a ton of resources already from this farm, and we need a storage system that can keep up with all of the drops this farm gives. So in order to do that, we gotta go ahead and start by making a floor for this build. Awesome. Now that we have a little bit more room to stand on, we can go ahead and start creating some pillars to create walls and a ceiling for this little build here. Our storage area is already looking fantastic, and it's not even done yet. What we have left to do now is I have to head back to our base and grab a couple materials in order to finish this up. What I want to do next is grab some redstone materials and get a working item filter system in so we can get these items automatically sorted as soon as they drop from the Guardians. So I'm gonna go ahead and head back to the base, grab some materials, and we'll be right back to do that. So I'm gonna be completely honest and say I stayed up all night trying to figure out this item filter just to wake up and realize that my hoppers were facing the wrong direction, and that's why it wasn't working. I'm glad this isn't a redstone channel, otherwise we would be screwed. But honestly, I feel like having to redo this is going to be beneficial in the long run, but it's definitely frustrating. So I managed to get the item sorter all fixed, but the issue is now is I realized that we're going to actually have to move this whole room downwards. Luckily, I ran out of rockets and I needed to pillar up here with blocks anyway to grab them out of my e-chest. But now we have a platform to work off of, so it at least will make this a little bit easier. But what I'm gonna have to do is I'm basically gonna have to do that whole room we just spent time doing and do it all again, but lower. It's gonna give us the raised ceiling look that we originally wanted anyway, and it will give us plenty of more storage to work with. So it will be definitely beneficial in the long run, but it's definitely frustrating to have to redesign or lower the whole thing after just building it. So what we're gonna do is I'm actually gonna go ahead and do all of that because I don't think you guys need to rewatch me rebuild the whole thing again, and I'll come back once it's all complete. We're back, and you may notice it looks a little bit different than the original design, and I'm honestly glad that I had to redo it because the extra storage and the new design that I went ahead and did ended up looking better in the long run. And we actually now have a window to be able to see all the bouncing guardians, and we have more storage and better lighting in here. So honestly, it's a win even though we had to do it twice. All that's left to do is the upstairs because it's still pretty empty, and I do have to kind of come up with a design for up here. I kind of want like an open frame look, but we do have to kind of figure out a way to cover up the redstone as well. So we're gonna have to do a little bit of designing before we go ahead and do some building up here. But I think that's gonna have to be a project for another time because I'm honestly kind of tired of working on this guardian farm, and I think we could all use a little bit of a break and start on another project. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go head back to our base and start on something other than guardian farms for today. All right, now that we're finally back on our base, we can start talking about the next idea. So me and my fellow neighbors are basically planning to make a huge path connecting all of our bases. And in order to start working on this project, we need to start expanding our path to the east. What this will do is we'll basically be connecting our kingdom entrance to our other neighbors' entrances, so players can travel in between our bases whenever they feel like it. What we're going to originally start doing is we're going to do a little bit of terraforming work going through the swamp here, and then eventually connecting all the way through the swamp and then over in the south area as well. So in order to get started, let's go ahead and do a little bit of terraforming first. Alright, so after a few hours, we officially made it to the swamp border and have a flat enough area to go ahead and get started working on part of our path. And just to give you an idea of how big this project actually is, I'm going to go ahead and pull up our map here so you can kind of see where we are right now. And the yellow bit is where our path is going to be going here. So currently we are on the swamp border and we have to go all the way up through the mountains to get to Eula's base here, which is our first neighbor along the path. It will eventually go down south, but currently the section we are working on is going to go to the east. And then it will connect to all of those surrounding areas here, connecting through all our neighbors' bases. But the amount that we just terraformed is just a small section of this path. So this is definitely going to be a large project that we are going to be able to chip away at as we progress. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to start working on the path bit, starting out from our entrance gate, going past the wheat field. I'm going to hopefully get to where our nether portal is going to be for now, because we're actually going to be putting in some kind of statue here, which is kind of why there's a circle there, because it's actually going to be going around the statue. So I kind of want to get our path at least to the nether portal today, just to get a good section of this path done. Alright, we are back at our entrance gate here, kind of taking out these kind of filler blocks that we originally had put when we transitioned the path into the grass. So I'm just removing those grass blocks that were kind of mixed into our path, giving it that natural fade look, and just replacing it with our regular path blocks, expanding our path outwards. You may notice that the packed mud has since been removed. This was something I've done recently. We replaced some of the packed mud with the dirt and rooted dirt here because the packed mud was standing out way too much for my preference, and it was kind of a change in design when I originally designed the path. When I originally designed it, I wanted more of the natural rooted dirt look, but as I started this season, I didn't have really much of a supply of rooted dirt. So as I've been growing all of the azalea trees, I've been getting a lot more rooted dirt, and since I've learned that I can craft it if I make a root farm. So we are definitely going to be going through and adding more of that rooted dirt look, and then also adding in some of this regular dirt, kind of keeping it that worn down natural theme that we were going for to kind of match the theme of our medieval village here. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go back in with our color theme here, expanding our path out to the east as far as we can really get. I have plenty of azalea leaves and grass all collected for this project, and I am a little bit limited on podzol, but I can always go back and grab some of that or go out collecting it once we run out here. So I'm just going to expand this path out to the east, hopefully getting to that nether portal bit, and then adding in the podzol into our garden beds here, adding that natural compost color, and then placing the azalea leaves on top, all mirroring the rest of our path here. I don't think I'm going to time lapse or do a lot of footage of this path and just kind of chip away from it behind the scenes because it's going to be very repetitive and a tedious project. And I don't know how much repetitive block placing you guys want to see because it's pretty much just doing the same thing over and over again for several days, hours, and even weeks until this path will be done. So I'm just gonna do a little bit here, kind of get a good section of this path done, and then we'll be able to continue it throughout the season. So I'll catch you back in a few with the final result, and I'll see you then. We completed a pretty nice section of our path here, and it might not look like much, but this section still took about 5 hours of the terraforming and block placing of how large this path actually is. It got to where I wanted it, where it's just reaching our nether portal and will give us plenty of room to kind of build that section around the statue that will go in. But every time I expand more on this path, I just love how much it adds to our kingdom. Even though it's just a path, it's just a good way to connect all of our builds together and make our kingdom feel more whole. I do want to eventually add more trees and buildings surrounding this path, kind of filling up the area, making it feel more populated. But for now, this road kind of gives us that look that we were going for. As we go down here, you can kind of see how this path is going to trail into our kingdom and render in our castle as we get closer. I want this path to go in between a bunch of houses and trees, kind of mimicking or resembling that village and making it feel populated. And then as we weave through the buildings, you'll see that castle appear on the horizon. Now, this path still has a long way to go, as you may know from before, but it's definitely going to be worth it in the long run, even though it's going to be a very tedious project and it's going to take a long time. Now, what I want to do now is I actually want to head to the shopping district here because I've been working a little bit on our shop as well as some things that I want to sell in the future. So I actually want to head to the shopping district real quick and show you guys what we've been doing there at our shop. So I'm going to meet you guys at our shop in the shopping district to go over our new shop expansion real quick before we end the episode. Welcome back to the shop, everybody. I know it was just last episode for you, but it's been a little bit since I've been here myself. What we're gonna do is I actually want to show you guys the new expansion, and that's actually the upstairs of the shop. You may notice we have a ton of more barrels, and we have moved our leaves upstairs here, which gives us more room to add the new leaf variants. I think we have the dark oak and the spruce now added here, and then we have plenty of more room for our shulkers here as well. And we have a little bit of a section for our wool here since we have that sheep farm that's been running real nice, and we have plenty of room for some more stock. I do have plans for this room in here. I'm hopefully gonna do like some kind of armory or PvP kits for new players, but that is all something that I'm planning for the future here. But I think that a little bit of an armory in this little section up here would look really nice in the future after I do a little bit of plan work for this bit. But I am loving the new shop expansion. Even though we don't have the inventory to quite fill it up yet, we have plenty of room for expansion in the future. You may notice that we now have a little bit of change up here. We now sell wood from our wood farm, so we are able to sell that. We also have the armadillo, scoots, and dog armor, so we are able to sell a new variety of stuff which I'm super excited to be able to sell this items for the unique builders in the area who just want some convenience and easy place to buy stuff for their projects. But that's going to be the end of our episode today, and even though it was more of a chore episode, we still got a whole lot done, and I have a ton of huge plans for the future. I hope we get to start some of those big projects next episode, but either way, I will catch you guys next time, and I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye!